As an informed field, your mind is the only thing that's really real about you. All the rest of this is just carrying your mind away, and your brain is housing it. It's the center of activity. It's the brain is where the central nervous system jacks into the actual mind. The mind is the soul, the spirit. So you, when you actually do something, it's because the mind has sent out the appropriate signals to make the hands and the feet and your body follow through on something. That is information that is being sent out of the brain case into the rest of the body. The central nervous system is conveying this information. The simulacrum is a very, very receptive field. We're talking about 200 years ago they described it. The metaphysicians described it as the ether. AETHER. The ether being this operative field around us that accepts signals and then modifies reality. The ether is a pretty good deal. I see it a little bit differently. I do see it as a simulacrum. I see it as a holography. I see it as a sentient living biogram that we are immersed within. And there is an interactive field between those of us that are within this biogram and the biogram itself. It feels us. It can anticipate us, but it cannot read our thoughts because our brain doesn't really think. Thought generates all kinds of chemical activities in the brain, and it's the brain that produces the endorphins and the cortisol and all the hormonal reactions to whatever is being thought. But the actual thoughts are not in the brain. They're in your real personality, your real soul, your immortalhood. That's where they are. If there is something in your life that you're aiming to possess, then you have to create the informed field to possess it. You can't continue to live your life as if you don't have it, because the simulacrum on a daily basis, as you go to sleep and you're jacked back into the holography, and you're going through your next uploads, because every time you go to sleep, you receive all the potentia for the next day, the next awake period. Potentia is all the myriads of timelines that you could be living. But even the simulacrum doesn't know which, because the simulacrum is a fixed holography, and it knows what the collective is going to experience and on what dates in the future it's going to experience, because the holography is absolutely fixed in the collective, but nothing is fixed in the personal. Nothing at all. This is why all hell could be breaking loose around you in your immediate environment, but the still, calm, cool, and collective mind will be untouched by it all. You're not receiving this information from somebody who is a theoretician. I'm not. I'm telling you a fact that I have lived and I have experienced over and over and over. I have been on cell blocks where there's no escape. It's concrete and bars. I have been within 5 feet of men that were getting steel pushed into their bodies. I have been in the middle of riots. I have been in racial riots. I have been chased with a knife across a rec yard, and I don't know where in the hell I got the strength and stamina that I got to stay away. But let me tell you, the informed fields that you carry with you every day allow you to insulate yourself from everything that the collective goes through. Because in the personal, Jesus said it perfectly. You are God's. There is no doubt about it. But that applies only to each individual in the personal, because there are 2 yous. Which one of those yous you want to be entirely depends on you. You can be the you that's a part of the herd and the collective, and you have been many times in your past, and so have I. The feeling of being neutralized, just going with the crowd, unable to speak up, unable to do anything, just frozen in stasis, experiencing the reality tunnels of others because you're trapped inside them. We've all been there. But there's another you. Every single one of us alive, except the NPCs. They're not really alive. But every single one of us, there's another one of us, there's another personality that is absolutely brimming with potentiality. And potentiality in the quantum parlance, potentiality is potentia. It means a force that is capable of doing anything. And every time you go to sleep, you are jacked back into the simulacrum, back into through the central nervous system. You are shut down completely as myriads of reality tunnels are analyzed, and those that you will probably follow, the person you will be tomorrow, is basically all laid out for you. You don't have to follow it. I have a video about breaking pattern and what it does, and how the simulacrum is actually thrown off. How you can fool the simulacrum, and how you can induce the simulacrum itself to create new circumstances for you, totally different than anything you've ever experienced before. And it's because you break pattern. Go back and watch that video. It's called Breaking Pattern. But that video has a very profound secret about basically fooling reality, because we're living inside a very advanced biogram. In our vernacular, we call it artificial intelligence. We call it AI. We are living inside that. It is not a God. It is not all pervasive. It's not omnipotent. It can't even read your thoughts, but it can surmise what you're thinking, because it can read your endorphin levels. It can read your cortisol levels. It can read your physicality. It can read your eye twitches. It can measure every aspect of your central nervous system and pretty much guesstimate where you are at an emotional level at any time in your life. But you are an immortal being trapped within a simulacrum that just can't peel back the brain and look into it. It can't look into your mind, because it's the only thing that's absolutely separate from the simulacrum itself. This is why when you go to sleep, you are absolutely unconscious. You're gone. You're completely gone. The simulacrum cannot overcome the individual immortal soul. I tell you all the time, we are more than we suppose ourselves to be. And I'm not just trying to give you a pep talk. You have no idea how powerful you are. I'm telling you now, I have done things with my hands that would shock people in a cinema watching a movie. You think the X-Men are bad? I have done things in prison that blew my mind just because I had no other alternative. Nothing I've ever trained for in my life prepared me for some of the experiences in Texas prison. None. I was on maximum security most of the time I was there. And most of the time I was there, I was trying to mind my business. But there are always demons on every cell block. And they look just like me. They're human. And they just won't leave you alone, no matter what. And I had important work to do. People would try to interfere with that. And I had a zero tolerance policy. I'm not going to be interfered with. I have an agenda. I've got to get it done. And when people got in the way, it caused problems. And sometimes those problems got out of hand. And then sometimes I saw me doing things that I would have never imagined. And every single one of you listening to my voice would definitely have the exact same powers, because we're all tapped into, we're all empowered by the exact same force. I'm no different than you, and none of you listening to me right now are any different from each other. We are all immortals trapped in the mire. We are all from somewhere else, now living out a temporal existence within a containment field. That containment field does its best to convince us that we're just flesh pot humans going through a life to death cycle, and when we're dead, we're gone. It does its best to put us down.